Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. I know we have attendees that are joining us, so we're just going to give it another minute or so. Hi, everyone that's joining. We're going to get started in about a minute. We have a few more individuals that are signing on. So I just want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to get on, and we will start promptly in about another 30 seconds or so. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're so excited to have you today. My name is Midra Surratt, Executive Director of Parent Information Center of Delaware. And again, so excited that you're able to join us for this exciting, very informative series on social and emotional learning, supporting the whole child. And this is geared towards families. So for families to get the resources and the tools to support our children. While it's geared to families, it is also open to everyone, anyone that interacts with children in any capacity. We hope this training you will find to be very useful and valuable to you. Just wanted to let you know that this recording is, this presentation is being recorded. And so your lines have been muted. However, if time permits, there may be some time later on in the presentation to respond to questions, and you're more than welcome to use the chat feature for that purpose. So a little about Parent Information Center very quickly. Our organization is a nonprofit statewide organization that with a mission to advance effective parent engagement and education. And there's a specific emphasis on parents of children with disabilities and special needs. We were established almost 40 years ago. Actually, we're moving into our 38th year. So we've been around for quite some time. And it's essential for us to provide parents and caregivers with the information, resources, and tools that you need in order to better support your child. So this we provide services to families in a number of ways, including offering training such as this that we're able to bring to you today in partnership with the Delaware Department of Education. And so before we get into the presentation, just want to formally introduce our co-presenter, Teri Lawler from the Delaware Department of Education. Teri, we're so excited to have you here with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm Teri Lawler. I am a former school psychologist, but currently leading the work in trauma-informed practices and social and emotional learning in Delaware Department of Education's Office of Equity and Innovation. So thrilled to be with you all. Midra, I don't know if you've been watching the messages coming in. However, our interpreter should be joining us soon. So yes, I just sent that link. So let's hope that they get in soon. So if anyone needs that service, we want to make sure we can communicate with all of our listeners.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And so in terms of our agenda today, we're going to talk about what is social and emotional learning. Teri's going to offer a bit of a background and history of social and emotional learning and how it came to Delaware. And then we're going to talk a little bit about how families and caregivers can support SEL. So how can you support social and emotional learning with the children that you're interacting with or with your child? Again, as I mentioned earlier, if time permits, there may be time for a brief Q&A. And then we're also going to discuss upcoming opportunities for you to learn more about social and emotional learning, connect with other families professionals and community members in a number of events that support or discuss social and emotional learning. And then we're going to share some additional resources with you as well. And Teri, I'm going to keep an eye out for our interpreter when she comes in so I can connect her as well.
Okay, great. I forwarded it from my calendar invite, so I hope that worked. But thank you for this time. So while you're watching, I'll get to talk a little bit. So social and emotional learning is the process through which children and adults understand and manage emotions, set and achieve positive goals, feel and show empathy for others, and establish and maintain positive relationships and make responsible decisions. When I think about social and emotional learning, I feel like it's a really fancy phrase that we're hearing so much about these days, but it's quite simple. These are the skills that parents are teaching from the very beginning of life, and just could not do the work that we do in schools if it weren't for all the great work going on in our families. And so for that reason, we want to partner more effectively so that we can assure that young people have the skills that are needed to be successful, not just in school, but in their homes and communities.
Great. And so I wanted to briefly just go back a slide, because I also wanted to mention to everyone that, again, this is part of a series of, this session is part of a series that we'll be offering. And the intent is to offer it at alternate times so that it's accessible and available to everyone. Again, the sessions will also be recorded. So if for some reason you're unable to participate in a live session, the recordings will be available to access afterwards. But here's the upcoming schedule of events. And if you are interested in participating in one or all of the webinars in the series, please feel free to register via our events website at www.pickofdel.org. Teri, can you see the screen here?
I can.
Okay. And so when we're thinking about your child, what are your hopes and dreams for your child or children in the community?
Yes, I think that's always a great place to start, especially at the start of the school year. Just the freshness of a new school year, no matter in what form, and we definitely recognize we're in a different form this year, but it brings up all of our aspirations for where we like to see young people go, the skills that need to be taught, classroom-based skills as well as life skills, and how we can move them closer to those lifelong goals. So when starting off the year, I like to begin with that question. You know, what are your dreams? What are your dreams for your child? What are your dreams for your family? And how can we, village members come together with you to help you make that happen for your children?
And as we progress through the presentation, take a few moments to just write down, as you're thinking about your hopes and dreams that you have for your child, jot them down. Write them in a place where you can reference them and they serve as a reminder for you as well.
Yep, I love that. Look, in every marking period, you should get a little closer, right? So if you have it written down, you write that vision down, and you can go back and check to see if we're on track. And if not, let's get together. Let's put our heads together and rethink how we get to that end result. There are so many possibilities when it comes to our young people's development. Okay, we definitely want them to acquire academic skills, but Aristotle says that educating the mind without educating the heart is no real education at all. And so we definitely want to incorporate those heart skills. How do we tie the two together, braid them together for strong development that will support them for a lifetime? these are the skills that help us get along with each other in the workplace, build strong relationships that are our foundation for our families. So how can we get these skills under their belts, but also some flexibility, build in some flexibility so that when things aren't going well, they know how to bounce back from challenges and get themselves back on track and move forward. And those are skills that all of us are working on all the time.
Absolutely.
You can advance to the next slide, please. Great. Am I able to? Okay.
You may be.
All right.
You should
So,
be.
okay. So we've discussed a little bit about the process of how this happens. And it really begins with those serve and return relationships in the earliest days of life when babies are introduced to the caregiver and put in that adult's arms. That social language develops, the ooh and then the ahhing. All of those serve and return relationships help build emotional strength in the child's brain, but also in their interactions with others. And so we build on that. That becomes the foundation for all of our relationships. So it begins really with being able to co-regulate with another person, maintaining self-regulation skills, all of the social language and social perspective taking that goes along with being in relationship with others helps us become more aware. And that way we're able to put ourselves in other people's places when it's time to make social decisions. So many times we think a lot about empathy in our relationships and how we treat each other. That's where the development of empathy comes in. And so I love this slide. This is the Castle Wheel, and we talk a lot about our relationship with Castle because Delaware is one of Castle's collaborating states. There are about 40 states in the country that are working hand in hand, receiving technical assistance from the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning. They are a national think tank and researchers in this area and have put a lot of effort into supporting states in developing competencies around social and emotional skills. So self-awareness, and I don't know, there we go. Self-awareness looks specifically at identifying emotions, understanding how we come up with or understand our own identities, recognizing our strengths. That's such a heavy skill, but we need it particularly as we progress through life. What do we do well? And where are there places where we need support? All of us need support from time to time. So getting comfortable with asking for help, all of that is a part of our self-awareness. When it comes to self-management, often we talk a lot about staying regulated and our impulse control. It involves how we manage stress, how we get motivated to get up and go to work in the morning, setting goals and staying organized to accomplish those goals and be productive are all a part of our self-management. Social awareness involves that perspective taking and the development of empathy. It's appreciating diversity and having and showing respect for others. When thinking about our relationship skills, they rely on our ability to communicate verbally and physically, understanding how to engage or take initiative to engage with others, building strong relationships, and learning to work cooperatively, which involves resolving conflict. Things come up from time to time, and we need to be able to communicate our needs and understand the needs of others. And then lastly, responsible decision-making, being able to identify challenges, analyzing situations critically, and working together to solve problems ethically and responsibly. And so all of those things make up the center of the Castle Wheel, those skills are part of CASEL's core skills. And you'll notice concentric circles around those skills because these are the environments where that learning takes place. While it might happen in classrooms and schools, there is a heavy emphasis on home and community and family and community partnerships to really support the work that we're doing in schools. Schools cannot do it alone. We are very much in need of engaging with our partners and very interested in engaging authentically and meaningfully so that we can build concentric supports around young people. At this very time of the year, we're thinking about developing relationships, but even looking at how we measure those relationships, because we know that relationships are so important to our development. One thing is for sure, all learning is social and emotional, okay? So the two work hand in hand. We are thinking a lot these days about equity and the importance of equity. And we talk a lot about transformative SEL. And so transformative SEL is considered to be really at the core of our work in Delaware these days. We really want to help young people start thinking early about how we create just and equitable environments, healthy communities, and making sure that all of us are good community members to each other. Belonging is so important to our development, having a sense of belonging. And we know that creating safe and inclusive environments are the way that we make that happen for all of our students. All right. There's data to back up this work. We really recognize that one, the benefits our SEL are priceless. Okay, so including social and emotional learning has a number of gains. One, it improves our attitudes about ourselves. It helps young people become responsible decision makers. They are able to have positive classroom behavior. And also, typically there's an 11-point percentage gain in academic skills and standardized testing. We typically have fewer conduct challenges, less emotional distress, and lower engagements in maladaptive behaviors like drug use. There are benefits that are lifelong. So for our teachers, we notice less stress. There's research that talks about the mirror neurons in the brain and how teachers are able to share their regulation with the youth that they're serving. So we're seeing gains across the system and really trying to build that research base into our professional learning practices, as well as how we do school for adults. We don't expect to jump over the adults in order to make these skills a part of our culture. We really focus a lot on adult social and emotional skills so that we can all be socially competent. There was a study done, I think it was 2017, where 82 schools, 82 different programs were assessed to look at the impact of social and emotional learning skills, social and emotional learning on 97,000 students. And what they discovered is demonstrated in this chart. So higher academic performance with SEL, with attention to SEL, improved attitudes towards school, and positive social behaviors. Again, conduct problems go down. Emotional distress goes down because there are better coping skills and ability to reach out for support in times of need. So there's less engagement and maladaptive or the more self-destructive behaviors. And that's what we want to see as parents and community members. So when we think about the implementation of our social and emotional structures, we began with working school-wide. We want to build awareness and commitment and have some ownership of our work. Then we focus very heavily on strengthening adult skills so that we can, as community members, support youth developing those same skills. Students learn vicariously from the adults around them. And so it's very important for us to demonstrate the very skills that we want them to see. And I remember a number of years ago, when working with students in a middle school, we wanted to encourage saying good morning, simple things like saying good morning at the start of the day. And in doing a quick scan of the school, I realized that the adults were grumbly and grouchy in the morning and we weren't saying good morning. And so it was hard to imagine that, and have that open conversation with the staff, that the students were basically mimicking what they saw us do. That when we changed our behavior, we noticed them become a lot more engaging, a lot more willing to say good morning and have those quick social interactions that are so valuable to the start of the day. So it matters, it makes a difference. But from there, you can continuously improve. I don't think there's ever an end result or an end point. There's always more room for growth and always opportunities to introduce new skills in the process. When thinking about social emotional learning in the classroom, it's often described as this three-legged stool. So essentially, we want safe and supportive environments that include explicit social and emotional learning instruction that's integrated into the day. It's not an additional thing, but a part of everything that's done in the classroom. And so our work for this year focuses a lot on making the partnership or the bridge between social and emotional learning and our curriculum content areas seamless. And there we go, my slide wasn't advancing. In our work with CASEL over the last year, we've had a core team of educators, community members, partners who have gotten together to create, develop, and adapt, in some cases, K-12 social and emotional learning competencies. We had them for early childhood. So in the preschool area, we had standards, but we didn't have competency guidance for K-12. And so that core team got together and reviewed the work of a number of states, because there's lots of great work going on around the country. And we adapted the best of what we found for Delaware. This year, our goal is to move forward by recruiting more community members. Some of you out there might be interested in joining us, who will come together on a regular basis and create toolkits, resources for how the competencies can be expressed in academic areas as well as home and community. And so that is the great work that's coming up next. And we hope that you all will join us. Let's get together, let's do this together and make not only our students more resilient, but I feel like it's going to build more resilience into our community. We have seen over and over again over the last 6 months how badly we need each other, right? And so we want to continue to reinforce that, continue to become self-aware, but build a safer and more supportive world system for everyone in Delaware and our children in particular. So I thank you for being able to share just a little bit about what we've been doing and move on with our presentation.
Yeah, so it looks like we have some questions. And before I go to the chat box to read some of the questions, Teri, first, let me just thank you once again for providing that very quick overview of social and emotional learning and the significance of social and emotional learning. And a few questions and I guess points to mention. One of the the areas that you discussed was transformative social emotional learning and equity. And right now, especially in this climate and the time that we're living in right now, that's incredibly important and an important skill. And it's something that I would imagine as adults, children, all of us as human beings, we're grappling with that, and we're trying to process the world around us right now and where we fit in the world around us. And so, could you speak to just how SEL addresses that very briefly, and how families could even begin the conversation, or resources that might be useful for families to have those conversations with their children?
Sure. Uh, Castle says that transformative SEL is anchored in the notion of justice-oriented citizenship. And it includes issues of culture, identity, agency, and being able to be independently exercise authority over your life, feelings of belonging and engagement, explored as relevant expressions of those 5 core competencies. What's really unique, I think, about their framework is that inherent and built within the competencies is the notion that, we are all better together. Okay, so there's interdependence built in. And so when thinking about equity, it's not necessarily equality, because I think a lot of times people see them as one and the same, but it's really because with equality being giving everybody equal portions, for example, but equity really looks at giving people what they need. And so one, it requires some reflection. It requires that perspective taking of social awareness and being able to recognize when differences are built into systems, not just those that affect me, but those that affect other people, so that we can make sure that all of our community members have the ability and access to the supports that will allow them to achieve independence, agency, that sense of belonging. And I mentioned at the outset the reflection, because I do think it requires constant reflection. Ways that I see caregivers and families supporting this work is at the earliest stages of life, when we talk about in our homes, simple qualities like kindness and how we treat other people, making sure that all of us have access to the things that we need. And when situations come up where there look like there could be some inequalities or some differences, it's an opportunity for honest conversation, because kids are watching us all the time. They see things, even when we're not certain they're watching. And so being able to have those honest conversations to talk about decisions that we're making, some of that ethical decision making that comes in, and even when differences come up, how we approach those things. We all have biases. This is something that I've had to become more reflective about myself. There are biases that impact the decisions that I make all day long. And it's my honest reflection on those biases that gives us opportunities to build a more equitable system. And so that comes into it too.
Thank you. We did have one question as it related to the research that you mentioned earlier in the presentation. If students with or individuals with special needs were included in that research.
Those meta-analyses were programs around the country. I will have to double check to make sure. I suspect that there were. I do know that we, in Delaware in particular, we have put a lot of effort into making sure that all of our students are represented in this work. You'll be hearing more about some of the various work going on across the department in the upcoming sessions. One of those is the career pathways work. And those pathways are created for all of our community members to make sure there's access to career opportunities, and building in SELs, integrating SEL skills into those pathways has been really important discussions, ongoing discussions lately. But that study was done in 2017. I'll have to look at it more closely to find out. I'm not really sure exactly of all of the participants.
Okay, and once we have that information, we'll share that, the response with the participants, in particular the individual who asked that question. So thank you for that question.
But definitely stay in touch with the work, because many times, and I think I said this before, I was a school psychologist, so many times we would look real closely at life skills in the IEP process. But that is such a disservice to all of our students, because these are skills that everybody needs. And so we want to make sure that we are representing that to all of, that opportunity to all of our students.
Right, and to your point, Teri, this is a great opportunity for families and caregivers of children with disabilities to find out more information about the collaborative and provide your valuable experience, because there might be areas where, and I'm sure there are areas that you can contribute to this work that could ensure that equitable access for all students, and because this work is moving to embed social and emotional learning into the curriculum, into all aspects of learning, because it supports the whole child, is how we learn. It impacts every area and every interaction that we have for all children. For our families that are participating, families of children with disabilities and special needs, you play a critical role in this process, and a critical role. Your feedback is critical in terms of getting information from you and your experiences, and how your experiences can inform the work that is taking place in our state.
Yep. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think about how we embed it authentically. And so when I think about our parents of students with disabilities, they may have had more experiences overtly teaching these skills, and can really be a support for us. And how do we marry that instruction? How do we bring it in authentically?
Absolutely. It goes beyond, you're absolutely right, Teri, because it goes beyond, this is what this says, and just do X, Y, and Z, or moving beyond the goals. It's really that looking at it from an authentic lens, and what does that look like? How do the two intersect? How do we make sure that this is embedded? And I think families, and we're specifically speaking right now, families of children with disabilities, but parents in general, your experiences, that authentic experience is critical in this work, as I mentioned before, because again, it goes beyond, this is what this looks like, to this is what this actually can look like when the work is done based on my experience. Did you have anything else to add, Teri? I'm looking at the chat box. I don't see any additional questions. I want to make sure that I'm not missing anyone.
Well, families are awesome at catching those teachable moments. And so I can suspect that there are some great stories and storytellers about how some of these skills have been taught, and how we can move forward in using those narratives to inform what we do instructionally. So I'm looking forward to this being more of a conversation. I know we've talked about that, but we really want to hear from and capitalize on all the great expertise that's out there. While I don't think we say it enough, and gosh, I don't know that I felt it enough in my parenting, but if we've learned anything over the last 6 months, I mean, our families, our caregivers, and community members are champions for children. And as much as possible, we want to engage in ways that recognize that and really capitalize on the great things that you know about your young people, so that we can be the best partners to you in reaching that goal that we talked about at the outset. So I'm just grateful for the opportunity to partner with Parent Information Center, Midra, for your just vision in bringing this to pass, these sessions to pass. We're really excited about sharing the great things that are going on and making sure that all of our community members become a part of the solutions.
Absolutely. Thank you. So we wanted to share some additional resources, and we will also make sure that the resources are available for you as well, for those who have participated, and I'll include the links in the chat feature. There were also a few videos that were included in the slide, and there were links included to some of those videos, so I'll make sure that you have access to those resources as well. But there are a there are a ton of resources out there to support social and emotional learning, and certainly we did not want to inundate you with resources, but we consolidated resources to just kind of introduce you to social and emotional learning, and that also included practical tips and strategies that you could utilize today. So, for example, the Parent SEL Toolkit. Teri, did you want to mention briefly about that?
Sure, thank you. The SEL Toolkit is actually linked to CASEL's website, and it's an endless resource. There's so many great things. There are so many great strategies to try. But what I love about including it here is I felt like what's on this list really synthesizes the Delaware work. We focused a great deal in our state on introducing mindfulness-based stress reduction and mindfulness practices to our youth and helping them use those skills to stay regulated is so important, but it works even better when the adults around them know those things. And so that's why it was important to include the CASEL resources with bibliotherapy and various books that can be used to highlight some of the aspects of social and emotional learning, but paired with the mindfulness. So you've got strategies to keep young people regulated, build those self-regulation practices into your home life. Many of us are building them into our work lives. And we also, through a partnership with CASEL, were introduced to Pure Edge and the Headspace app, strategies that are being used throughout instruction that are also available to our families and communities. So when we send out information about Mindful Mondays or some of the links that are out there, and we're doing mindfulness online, join us with your children. Learn those various poses and some of the breathing practices. They really will come in handy during times of calm, but even more during times of chaos.
Teri, can you talk really briefly? I know we're nearing the close of this presentation, but the mindfulness Mondays, could you talk a little more about that?
Sure. For the from the time we went to home instruction, we pivoted to host online our mindfulness sessions for educators, but as well as families. For the month of May, we had sessions going on Mondays and Wednesdays at noon, as well as Mondays at 4 and Wednesdays at 7. And we'll be doing those, sending out advertisements throughout the school year to let families know that we have these mindful meetups where we can come together as a community, build some of those practices into our daily lives, but really learn strategies to stay calm and regulated. You don't have to look far to see that people are really struggling right now. This has been a stressful time for many of us. And when it's tough for adults, I feel like it's even harder on children because they rely on us for, to make meaning out of life. So I used to tell my daughter, don't get stressed until mom gets stressed, okay? And that was my way of, keeping her regulated. But the reality is she was watching me all the time to get an idea of whether or not we were okay. And so I think it's so important for us to remember that and have ways for us to uh, maintain our balance, get things under control, learn strategies to stay in control during these chaotic times. And so the mindfulness practices are strategies that we've been using throughout the state.
Great.
And making them available to families is newer, but so important to the work.
Absolutely. Okay. So just want to take the time to, Teri, thank you again for sharing this incredible information. Again, I can't stress enough how excited I am to share this information with families and for us to get this information and resources to families. You mentioned that this has been an extremely difficult time for all of us. And with the start of the school year, there are new anxieties and uncertainties that I know that families are experiencing right now and children are experiencing. And so we really worked hard and wanted to get this information and these resources to you and to open up the dialogue and open up the discussion and hopefully have this dialogue about how we can work together and in partnership to best support our children and best support each other. At the close of the presentation, you will receive a link to a survey. Please take a few moments to complete that survey and provide your feedback. That is very helpful in letting us know if we're on the right track in terms of series such as this, or if there are other topics that you are interested in. Again, stay connected with us. Visit our website at www.pickupdel.org. You can also find us on Facebook, on Twitter, or on Instagram, where we share a number of resources, not only from Parent Information Center, but from statewide, community, and also national resources. And that's where we also share our events, upcoming events as well. So again, thank you all for participating. Thank you, Teri. And we look forward to seeing everyone next Thursday, where we will be talking about and going a little more in depth on social emotional learning at home and in the community. Thank you.
Thanks.